So, hello friends. So, today we begin with chapter 14 Elements, Compound, and Mixture. So, first, let me answer, let's recall questions. Where's the brush? Okay. How many different states of matter are there? As we know, there are three, namely solid, liquid, and gas. Okay. Two, what bring about a change of state of temperature? We know that it is either temperature or pressure. 3. What are the properties of matter? And fourth, do all substances have same properties? Okay, some of them will be answered as we go through this chapter. So classification you can do, and most of the can you tell questions can be answered. Okay, now I come to this, the first heading, matter. So basically, okay, we say that object is made up of a certain substance. So the term matter is used as a synonym of substance. Okay. However, in science, synonyms are not that valid. A single term is used for single substance, and an object is made of is called matter. Okay. So try this. You can do that. Okay, basically what is it is that matters interact. What we learn is that the various kinds of matter interact with each other. Okay, so as they say, reading this, it is the matter present in the various things in solid, liquid or gaseous state that is responsible for their property. Okay, so basically what happens is that a matter is present in each and every substance. Okay, so basically that matter is responsible for the properties. Okay, even though they are divided into small particles. Just a moment. So yeah, as you were saying that even though they are into small particles, their properties due to matter present in them remain the same. Okay, so for example, you see the first in try this was a chalk. A big chalk you can write with a big chalk, you can write with a small chalk. Even a dust of chalk has a property to stick. Okay, so you try to divide it, but the properties are not affected. So the examples are given that white color of chalk, blue color of ink, and fragrance of perfume. Okay. So as the answer to first part is after read the question, basically things are made up of both one kind of matter as well as many kinds of matter. Okay. Now you can classify it. I'll give one example whether it's made up of one kind of particle or more. For example, an engraved idol. Now that actually depends because some idols have something sticking to them, which are not. For example, the idol may be made of iron, but for example, the eyes may be made up of some diamond or any other precious stone. So in that case, it is made of two kind of matter. But if the idol is say made only of iron, then it is made of only one kind of matter. Okay. Now what you have to do is, as the for try this says, take a glass. Okay, this was needed. Take a glass, fill it, pour a stone. The glass comes out. Okay. So place a small stone. The second experiment is take a weighing balance, place small stone on one end and place a big stone on other. So naturally the one with heavier stone goes down. So basically what we were trying to say is through this experiment is objects have mass, and mass can be measured with devices like the common balance. Okay, the one you typically see the vegetable or fruit vendors having that. Also, they occupy space. Okay, the both these property come from the matter they are made of. Okay, so basically any matter has mass and volume. As we have seen in the previous chapters, air too has mass and volume. Hence, air is a matter. Now, the thing is that many kind of matters are found and they are in their pure form. Okay, for instance, I have to give an example: rice. Rice is made of only one kind, rice grain. But you see, when so there can be of one kind, it can have either one kind or various kinds of matter in it. So what is it? Matter made of only one constituent is called substance. Example: gold, diamond, water, chalk. And the one made of two or more substances is called a mixture. Okay. So now basically we come to elements. So now when you do try this, take water in teapot and cover it. Heat the water to boil. What do you see inside of lid? You basically see the water particles, the small water drops. Okay. To fill water in the water spray pump, spray the water and observe the spray. Okay, so basically we'll see some very fine water particles. So basically what? The water vapors collected on inside of the lid of teapot are formed by condensation of vapors. See, basically it's a solid surface and hot vapors are coming. So as they come, they find a cooler surface. So they become in the form of drops. Okay. Because and vapors are so tiny that you cannot see them. But yes, they can be felt through a very burning sensation sometimes. Okay. Similarly, spray in the second case, as the spray pump, it has very small particles of water. Okay. So what is it? The smallest particle of substance are molecules. Okay. Basically, water is this one H2O molecule, smallest particle of a substance. Remember, its substance we had defined only single constituent. Water only has water. So far we have assumed nothing is dissolved in it. Okay. A substance whose molecules are made of one or more atoms which are exactly alike is called an element. Okay, so let me break the definition. A substance, basically only one kind of matter made of only one constituent, whose molecules are made up of one or more atoms which are exactly alike. H2O is same as here, as for example, H2O is same everywhere. It won't modify. Water is water everywhere, whether you go to whatever part of the world. Okay. We do not get different substances by decomposition of an element. Exactly, because an element is the most basic thing ever. If you cannot go below that, you cannot get something different. The smallest particle of elements are made of only one type of atom. Okay, for example, let me give an example. You must have seen aluminium, right? Aluminium is made of only aluminium. Okay, we cannot see the atom with the naked eye. Okay, you cannot see one individual aluminium particle, but when crores of atoms come together, their total volume is large enough to be visible to our eyes. That is, you can see an aluminium rod, but not an aluminium atom. So basically, aluminium in rod, crores of atoms have come together. Okay, the mass and value of atoms of different elements are different. This is dealt much in higher classes. So one good thing is that scientists have discovered 118 elements. Okay. So Democritus, he named the smallest particle of elements atom, because in Greek language atomos means indivisible. That is, atoms cannot be divided further, according to him. So, as I say, atom cannot be created or divided into smaller particles or destroyed. Okay. Okay, now as the good yellow thing box it tells, oxygen occurs in nature in the gaseous state. Okay, so yeah, what we breathe is a part of oxygen. Two atoms of oxygen are joined to form a molecule. Basically, one alone oxygen atom, one alone oxygen atom, they form molecule of oxygen, O2. Okay, it has an independent existence. Okay, oxygen in air is always in molecular state. We breathe this O2 only. Just like atoms, molecules cannot be seen with naked eyes because they are really, really small. Okay. So now short form are used in many places. So actually now it's not feasible every time to call an element again and again with its proper name. Okay, so symbol is often a short form of it. Okay, so the scientist, as they say, but okay, sorry, Berzelius was the first to use the present method of using symbol for atom. Okay, for example, H represents hydrogen, He represents helium, and for example, Fe represents iron. Okay, there are at least, as I said, there are 118 elements, so there are 118 symbols. Okay, the symbol of an element is written in English script and is the short form or its name. Okay, now thing is that name may be different. For example, hydrogen is already H. Now you cannot give the same term H for helium because it is already used for hydrogen, so it is He. And similarly for other cases, for example, C has been used for carbon. So when it comes to chlorine or calcium, you cannot use only C. So what we do is we take their next alphabet as much as possible. Okay, so this is the table, you can just have a look at it. Okay. Now I'm reading this part. Elements are generally classified into metals and non-metals. There is a chemical way to define them, but we won't be dealing them in higher studies. I mean, we won't be dealing with this at this stage. We will learn that about in higher studies. Okay. The properties of metals are, what are the physical property? Malleability. Malleability is basically you can sort of press them. Okay, you have seen aluminum sheets. Ductility, you can roll them into wires. Conductivity, metals are really good conductor of heat and electricity. Okay, conductor of heat and electricity. Density, metals are really dense. Lusters, metals have a shiny surface. Take a look at gold or say aluminium or iron. And sonority, this I am not aware of. The elements that do not show the properties are called non-metals. So we have phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine. Okay, and what are metallites? That show some property of metal plus property of non-metal. They are metalloids. Okay, the examples are arsenic, silicon, selenium. Okay, so now as in do we know, we see a tungsten. Okay, tungsten is represented from its German name Wolfram. Similarly, gold and silver are the symbols are derived from the Latin names argentum and aurum. Okay, so basically it's not important that the names can be derived only from English language. Some are, as you see, the symbols of silver and gold are derived from Latin and sometimes even some Greek, ancient Greek words also. Okay. Now the one thing is some metals are difficult to use in pure form. Okay. Pure iron rusts in air. That is why we use steel, which is an alloy of iron. Pure gold is very soft. Okay, we add a bit of a silver of a gold to it to make it a bit solid, because pure gold is like you can press it with your fingers, it's so soft and bends easily. Okay, the properties of the original metal can be modified by mixing one or more elements in it. It is called alloy. So, as I said, steel is an alloy of iron. Okay, basically, you add two or three elements of in addition to iron and allow them to react, and after some time, steel is formed. 22 karat gold. 24 karat gold is pure gold. 22 karat gold has, for example, if there are 24 atoms, consider. So 24 karat gold means all 24 of them are gold. But 22 karat gold means for every 22 atoms, there are 2 silver atoms. Silver imparts stability, and most of the gold jewelry is of 22 carats. Okay. The next thing is compounds. Now the two things, the one is take sugar and heat the test tube and observe what remains, basically ash. Okay, because sugar has carbon, when you burn carbon you get ash. So second part is hold a magnesium rubber in a flame and observe. Magnesium is a really good heat conductor. It starts to burn. So they say in the first case the sugar melts and it loses water, leave behind a black substance. Okay, it is carbon. Okay. Now basically what are compounds? The substances formed by the chemical combination of two or more elements is a compound. Sugar is a compound. Okay. The formula of glucose which our body takes is C6H12O6. Okay, so it is a compound. Now, which of the elements? See first, which of the following are compounds, which are elements? Water, it is made of H2O, 2 atoms. Okay, it's a compound. Oxygen, O2, made of only one element, it's an element. And CO2, carbon dioxide, also has 2 different elements, so hence it is a compound. What is the smallest particle of a compound called? It's atom. Basically C is an atom, O is also an atom. Okay, so one thing is a substance is a compound only if its molecules are made up of atoms of different types. Okay, the molecules should be of different. As they say, water is a compound. It is made up of 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. As shown, this is the chemical formula for water. Okay, now see, hydrogen is a combustible substance, so much so that in rockets hydrogen is used as a fuel. Oxygen helps combination. Yeah, oxygen actually is a really good agent to support combustion. However, the water H2O made from these 2 substances is used to extinguish a fire. So basically what we derive from it is the properties of a compound are different from those of the constituent elements. Okay, that difference need not be that extreme as in case of hydrogen, oxygen and water, but yeah, it is different. So like an element, a compound is also written in abridged form. This is what I have drawn. A molecule of a compound is formed by a chemical combination of atoms of 2 or more elements. Okay, when hydrogen and oxygen react, that produces, okay, after balancing, this is something what we obtain, though that's not much of a constraint. Basically, when hydrogen and oxygen react, water is produced. Okay, sorry. Therefore, a molecular formula is used to represent a compound. A molecular formula for compound is a short form of its name written with the help of the symbol of the constituent elements and the number of respective atom. So in water is made of hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, so with the help of symbol of the constituent elements, which are constituent elements of water are hydrogen and oxygen, and number is 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. Good enough? So this is preparing a table. Next we come to mixtures. Okay, basically what you do in everyday life. For example, if you milk sugar with tea, that is a mixture. Okay, so what is it? A mixture is formed by mixing different elements or a compound. As I said, you mixed milk and sugar. Okay, or to give you a more, okay, now I think that should be enough. The proportion of various components in a mixture is not fixed. Exactly, you can add less sugar to milk, you can add more sugar to milk. Okay, now this is the thing that separates it. No chemical change takes place during the formation of mixture and no new substance is formed. Okay, for example, hydrogen and water produced H2O, which is a different substance with radical different property. But when you mix milk and sugar, nothing new is obtained. It just happens that the milk becomes sweet. Okay, but the milk still has its properties. Okay. So you might, now we had discussed about the food poisoning. Unwanted substance in any foodstuff is called adulteration. So adulteration, adulterated food is also a kind of mixture. Okay. So now I'm reading this paragraph. When an unwanted or harmful substance is mixed with another substance, the resulting mixture no longer remains useful. Okay. So in these cases, we separate the unwanted ingredient from the mixture. Okay, for example, let me take yellow color for wheat. Okay, consider this as a wheat stock, though technically not a mixture. Okay, let me take something more accurate. Okay, for example, when we sieve the product, okay, so what we do is, a chalni, right? I don't know what you might call them, a sieve or a chalni. Basically, it's a sort of this with very small filters to allow the product to pass. Okay, these are even smaller. Okay, the liquid passes, but the substance stops. Or when you're making tea, you don't need tea leaves in your tea. So what you do is you sieve it, the liquid tea goes through, and the tea leaves stop. So as many techniques mentioned are straining or filtering, sifting, okay, I'm not sure what is this, picking, okay, picking is to separate stones from rice. Sorting is arranging it from higher order to lower order. That happens when we want to separate oil from liquid. Winnowing, it is used for wheat. Basically, what happens is wheat has some particles which are lighter. So what you do is you take it at a height and you pour it at a height and then you put it on the ground. So the lighter particles are flown by the wind and the solid grain comes down. Okay, combing with a magnet to remove iron impurities, and sublimation. Okay, sublimation is basically a property in which it's converted from solid to vapor directly. There is no liquid state. Example we have of naphthalene balls. You will never find a naphthalene ball in its liquid state. Okay. So on this say properties of matter and effects of heat. These properties are used for separating the components of a mixture. Okay. So as I was saying, this is an example of winnowing. This is an example of picking. Basically, you are removing. And then this is sieving. This is an example of filtering. And at last, this is the, I don't remember the English term for it. This is an example of salting. Okay, basically what happens is the milk goes down and the heavier butter settles upside and we take that butter. Okay, so now we come to distillation. Okay, now to understand that, let's do a small experiment. Take some salt water in a round bottom flask. This is a round bottom flask, round from the below. Okay, arrange the apparatus as shown. So we turn on the burner. Now as you see the conical flask, since there is no way for vapors to expand or go, they start to go around it. Okay, the vapors start to deposit in the corners, as you can see in the picture as well. Okay, where did these drops come from? As I already told you, that the vapor that leave when comes in contact with the solid, this resulted liquid. Now the salt water boils on heating. The water in it vaporizes when the vapor passes through the inclined tube. This is the tube. It gets cooled due to surrounding cold water. Okay, basically we are supplying cold water from outside and then we pass vapors. Vapors, when they are faced with cold temperature, they turn into liquid. Okay, and what the liquids they get, it is deposited there. Remember that if water has any impurity, unless okay, I should reframe my sentence. If the water has any solid impurity like salt or sugar, when you evaporate water, only water goes. Okay, the salt and the sugar stay behind. So what you are getting here is only water. After complete evaporation, the salt or sugar will stay there only. Okay, so as what is mentioned, the drops falling onto the conical flask are of the water from the salt solution. Salt remains behind at the bottom of the flask, whereas all the bottom has collected in conical flask. Okay, this is called distillation. Distillation is also used for purification of impure liquids. Okay. So now one thing is using separating funnel. Okay. Now basically see, when a mixture of two immiscible liquid is left, immiscible means the one which don't mix together. Okay. Undisturbed, two layers are clearly seen to have formed. Okay, you can try that on a much smaller scale. Is take a very small katori, take some oil, take some water first and then pour a drop of oil. Okay, and that, or you can also do the other way around, but generally oil drops are easily observed. The oil takes place a drop. Leave it undisturbed and you will see a very thin layer of oil. Maybe it will not be that pronouncedly visible, but if you do that in lab, actually the oil and water, they are separately visible. Okay. So two liquids in the mixture can be separated by making use of this property. That basically that lighter liquid goes down and the heavier liquid, okay, sorry, I just said the wrong thing. The heavier liquid goes down, the lighter liquid goes up. Okay. So now we see in its experiment of kerosene and water. So what you do is pour some water, pour some kerosene, and then close this stopcock, and then leave it for some times undisturbed. Okay. After some times you will see that a distinct layer of water and kerosene has been formed. Okay. So what you do is you open the stopcock for some time till all the water has passed, then close the stopcock. Then you remove this beaker, put another beaker and pour kerosene in it. Okay. So hence we have separated water and kerosene from each other. Okay, so basically what we did is a small recap. You mix those two, wait for the two layers to form. You take one beaker, turn on the stopcock, keep it on till all the water is empty from here. Then you close it. You take away the beaker, and bring a new beaker. You fill some kerosene in it and wait till all the kerosene is deposited in it. Thus, you have separated kerosene and water. Now, methods of centrifugation. Now, the thing is, okay, water and oil, they are two immiscible liquid. Okay, so you can use the above technique to separate them. But what happen is sometimes particles are so small that they stay suspended even if you leave them undisturbed. Okay, because as I know, heavier things tend to settle down, not if they are of comparable weight. So, how to separate them? By using centrifugation. This paragraph explains that. Okay, now how do you separate? In lab, you have a centrifuge machine. Basically, what centrifuge is you take a particular thing. Suppose this is water, it has some kind of impurity in it, and you rotate it at really high speed. So what is it? Solids tend to stick at the corner, okay, and the liquids stay in the middle. So after it, you can separate the solid and the liquid. So as they mentioned, it consists of a disc which rotates like a fan at great speed, that is very high speeds. Okay, the provision to attach test tube at the rim of the disc. Okay, that attach at high speed, a force is generated which pushes the particle away from the center. Okay, because that it's rotating at really high speed, liquids can rotate but solids cannot rotate at this high speed. Okay, as a result, solid particles in the test tube collect at the bottom and they are separated. Okay, good enough. Now comes chromatography. Suppose you want to separate two liquids that both mix with each other. For example, if you try to mix water and alcohol, or water or perfume rather is a better example. If you tend to mix water and perfume, they mix together really well and you cannot separate them, because since both are miscible, they cannot be separated by this process. This one, they cannot be separated by separating funnel, and since both are liquid, they cannot be separated by centrifugation. So what you do is, the last process in this chapter is the method of chromatography. Okay, so as I say, if two or more substances are dissolved in small proportion in the same solution, the substances are separated by chromatography. Chromatography is derived from two words of Latin, chromato and graphy. Chromato means color, and graph, you know what graph is. Okay, this method is used in pharmaceutical science, factories and scientific laboratories for detecting new ingredients and identifying and separating components of a mixture. Okay, so what the procedure is, you take some water in the beaker, okay, and then you take a rectangular piece of filter paper. This is a filter paper piece, and you put a small spot on it. Okay, and as they say, you place the minded the spot should be such that if you place the paper in water, it should not touch the water, or else it will be of no use. So the minimum gap, as I say, is 2 centimeter away. Okay, you keep that upright in beaker and wait. Okay, you will see such colored spots forming, because ink, what we know of ink is not a single component, it's made up of multiple colors. If there are two or more constituents of different colors in the ink, they will be seen to have risen to different heights. Okay, because basically all these colors are due to some components. Okay, so every component has different property, it will spread differently, and you can see that okay, this, for example, blue ink has indigo and blue color. Okay, It can be done using a chalk stick instead of filter paper. Okay, but don't use normal paper for it, because normal papers are not designed to stay in water. Okay, now they said two properties of substances are used. These are the solubility of substances in solvent, that moves up. Okay, it's soluble and it moves up, and the ability of the substance to stick to stationary filter paper. That's why it doesn't work on normal paper, because these substances don't stick on normal paper. Okay, these properties are mutually opposite and different from different substances. Okay, as a result, the components of the mixture do not rise at the upper end of the filter paper but remain at different height. Now, naturally, because as I say that, for example, in blue ink, the one we call blue ink, there is indigo, a purple, and a blue. There are three components, and all three are made of three different elements. Now, what happens is all the three elements will have different properties, and since they have different properties, they will react differently to external causes. And since they react differently, they have the separate colors are formed. Okay, now as I say, not all rise the upper end of the filter paper. They do not rise at the same time, or for that matter, even at the same position. And this remains behind at different heights. Okay, so I hope you understood that. Thank you.